From a dark age, the light of prophecy shines forth. From deep in the bowels of a divided Europe emerge stark warnings to mankind that resonate within us even now. Prophecies that are seemingly impossible, and yet are there for all to see. The outbreak of a worldwide pandemic, the death of Queen Elizabeth, the invasion of Ukraine, global warming, terror attacks, world war, and the end of times. These, and more, were foreseen by a 16th century physician. Indeed, we are told that a coming war, starting in Europe, will engulf the globe and cause catastrophic numbers of deaths. The materialistic Christian West will do battle with the united forces of the East and the Muslim world, following a Russian invasion of Europe. Ballistic rockets will rain down upon us all. Are we ready for the truth? This is the tale of that man and his unique insight into the global events set in motion by mankind. This is the story of the end of the world and the man we know as Nostradamus. This is the story of how he became infamous. Nostradamus was a French astrologer and physician whose prophecies earned him fame and a loyal following during his lifetime. In the centuries since his death, people have credited him with accurately predicting pivotal events in history. From the French Revolution to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. Some have even said the 2020 coronavirus pandemic was predicted by him. His book, The Prophecies, was published in 1555 and has since earned him worldwide fame. According to Nostradamus, the world is slated to end in the year 3797.
Are we about to witness the most cataclysmic era in mankind's history? The world of Nostradamus was a world of secrecy. He spent years building around himself an aura of mystery. He claimed that the danger of his own time required that his words were written down in enigmatic sentences that he called cloudy obscurity.
He was born in 1503 in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, France. He is known as Nostradamus, the apothecary and seer, who published his collections of prophecies. From the rise of Adolf Hitler to the nuclear destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, from the terrorist attacks of 2001 to the end of the world, Nostradamus has always been there. But all of these prophecies were discovered after he died, after he had written them down and after the events. Now, though, his quatrains are predicting our own immediate future, the fall of technology and the almost total destruction of mankind as we know it, the rise of a huge Islamic army led by the Antichrist that will begin a third world war, the invasion of the West by the Chinese hordes. All of these and more are being discovered in the writings of a man from 16th century France. Now we are seeing the interpretation of his predictions before the events. Now we may have a new future revealed to us. The question is it true? Are we about to witness the most cataclysmic era in mankind's history? The world of Nostradamus was a world of secrecy. He spent years building around himself an aura of mystery. He claimed that the danger of his own time required that his words were written down in enigmatic sentences that he called cloudy obscurity. In 1558, a text stated about Nostradamus that he was, quote, a certain brainless and lunatic idiot who is shouting nonsense and publishing his prognostications and fantasies on the streets, end quote. The astrologer Laurent Vidal wrote in his declaration of the abuses, ignorances, and seditions of Michael Nostradamus that, quote, if I wanted to recite all the ignorances, errors, and idiocies that you have been putting in your works for the last 4 or 5 years, it would need a pretty big book, end quote. Ever since the publication of his first book in 1555, it has almost never been out of print. It is said he predicted worldwide events, births, catastrophes, and even world wars. Most academics say that any associations with real events and the prophecies of this 16th century man are purely coincidental, mistranslations, or are so thin that it takes nothing to make them snap. But is this the truth? As we are now well into the 21st century, could there be prophecies that have new meaning? Could there be new science to explain just how Nostradamus predicted the future? Indeed, there are predictions that he made and which are fast approaching. Better now to know the truth then.
Michel de Nostradamus was one of at least 9 children of the notary Jaume de Nostradamus and Renier, the granddaughter of a physician in Saint Remy. His father's family had been Jewish but had converted to Catholicism and taken the surname Nostradamus, meaning Our Lady. There is very little known about the childhood of Nostradamus. We know that at the age of 15 he entered the University of Avignon, stayed there for 1 year, and then was forced to leave when the plague broke out and the university closed its doors. According to the accounts of Nostradamus, he then proceeded to travel the countryside for 80 years as he researched herbal remedies. He then entered the University of Montpellier to study medicine. He was then expelled for practicing apothecary and slandering other doctors. The actual document still exists. And so, even though his publishers would call him Doctor, the truth is that he never made it. He continued life as an apothecary and became widely known for his invention, the rose pill, which apparently protected against the plague. By 1531, he was so well known that a leading man of the Renaissance invited him to Agen, where he married and had 2 children.
After a visit to Italy, Nostradamus decided to move away from medicine and steered himself towards the occult world. He wrote an almanac in 1550, and this was the first time his name becomes Nostradamus and not Nostradam. It was a success, and so he decided to continue. In total, he wrote over 6,000 prophecies. Soon, he was coming to the attention of the nobility, who began ordering their horoscopes and asking for psychic advice. He then proceeded to do something very strange. He would write a book containing 1,000 quatrains of undated prophecies. These are the prophecies he is now known for worldwide, and it is because these are undated that they remain open to interpretation in every generation. He believed what he was doing was against the religious rules of the day, and so he obscured what he was doing. He mixed the languages, using Greek, Latin, Italian, and Provençal, and used word games. In truth, he would have had to have practiced magic to upset the Inquisition. Prophecy and astrology was permitted. His book, The Prophecies, had a mixed reception. Some believed he was a servant of Satan. Others believed him to be insane, but others thought him enlightened. Many of these were from elite families, such as the Medicis. Catherine de' Medici summoned him to Paris after she read about his omen of threats to the royal families. She had him draw up horoscopes for her family. She made him counselor and physician to her son, who would be Charles IX of France. Nostradamus suffered from gout, a type of arthritis, and in 1566, it was making movement problematic. By June of that year, he was drawing up his will. By July 1st, he told his secretary, quote, "You will not find me alive at sunrise." The following morning, he was found dead. It seemed this was one prophecy he definitely got right. But the man left behind a vast volume of work, and it is to the prophecies that we now must turn. The French philosopher wrote 6,338 prophecies, suggesting when, where, and how our world will dramatically end.
There are many problems with the works. Firstly, the typesetting for printing in those early days was done by word of mouth, and so each new edition differed. We cannot assume that the spelling of words, for instance, contain codes. Since his death, there have been over 200 editions of his prophecies, and they remain as popular today as they were in his own lifetime. It has always been an easy task to take the vague, undated ramblings and associate them with any particular period in time. He produced his works, he claimed, on astrological judgment, or the possibility of events such as births and coronations. There is evidence, however, that he stole and adapted collections of ancient prophecies, making them relevant to his own time. It is fact that he stole from Livy, Plutarch, Suetonius, and more, and much of it word for word. Today, we would call this plagiarism, but in the 16th century, it was common. There is, in fact, a method of prophecy called bibliomancy, and it is believed he practiced this. All you do is randomly select a book, and whichever page it falls open on gives you your prophecy. It's all very scientific.
Many of Nostradamus's predictions, such as the rise to power of Adolf Hitler, World War II, the September 11th terrorist attack, the French Revolution, and the development of the atomic bomb, have been interpreted as being accurate. Nostradamus also appeared to have predicted the start of the coronavirus pandemic of 2020, according to believers. According to Yearly Horoscope, more than 70% of his prophecies have been fulfilled so far. But his prophecies have continued to amaze those who follow his work. Among his first predictions were events that occurred when he was still alive. He is said to have predicted that a monk he met on his travels would be the future pope. He was correct, as the monk eventually became Pope Sixtus V in 1585. Nostradamus is also alleged to have predicted the death of King Henri II of France, saying in one of his quatrains, quote, "The young lion will overcome the older one on the field of combat in a single battle. He will pierce his eyes through a golden cage, 2 wounds made one. Then he dies a cruel death." End quote. King Henri II ultimately died during a ceremonial jousting match when he was stabbed through his mask in the face by his opponent, who was 6 years younger than him. Hence the reference to the young lion in Nostradamus's quatrain. Beforehand, Nostradamus tried to warn the king not to take part in any ceremonial jousting, but to no avail. Nostradamus's most significant predictions, however, supposedly took place or will take place centuries after the prophet's passing. Experts suggest that he predicted the French Revolution of 1789. They attribute this prediction to one of his quatrains, which reads, quote, "From the enslaved populace, songs, chants, and demands while princes and lords are held captive in prisons. These will be in the future by headless idiots be received as divine prayers." End quote. The French Revolution began with the storming of the Bastille prison. The masses, which Nostradamus had referred to as, quote, "the enslaved populace," end quote, rose to overthrow the French monarchy and establish the French Republic. During the years of upheaval that followed, many Frenchmen, Nostradamus's supposed, quote, "headless idiots," end quote, were executed by being decapitated via the guillotine. Another event that the French seer may have predicted was the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, also referred to by Nostradamus experts as the first antichrist. In one of his quatrains, Nostradamus used the words "Pau, ne, Laurent," which students of the prophet suggest as an anagram for Napoleon Roy or Napoleon, the king or Roy of France.
The famous skeptic James Randi said that Nostradamus suffered from modern-day manufactured reputation, his words being fitted to events that have already occurred or are so close that they are predictable anyway. The truth of the matter is simple. absolutely no prophecy written by Nostradamus has been interpreted and proven to have predicted a specific event before it became reality, even those with dates. Even the false claim that Nostradamus said the world would end in 2012 is not only untrue, but never came true, and wasn't even said by him. Of course, it could be that none of his prophecies have yet come true, and we're all waiting around for it to happen.
Here's what Nostradamus believers have interpreted from the entries in his book concerning recent times. Nostradamus may have predicted the death of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. In the 14th quatrain of Centuria 4, he wrote, quote, "The sudden death of the first character. It will bring about a change and may place another character in the kingdom." End quote. Nostradamus believers have speculated the leader is Kim amid his dramatic weight loss and consistent rumors about his health. The North Korean despot had not been seen for some time since a huge missile exhibition in October, his longest absence for 7 years. He reappeared again on November 15th, but it only fueled long-running speculation about his health. The third quatrain of Nostradamus' Centuria 3 is believed to forecast a huge earthquake in Japan. He wrote, quote, "Towards midi-extreme Sicily, in the depths of Asia, they will say earthquake." End quote. Indeed, if a quake did happen in the middle of the day, it could wreak terrible damage and death. On October 7th, an earthquake estimated at a magnitude of 5.9 at its epicenter rattled the greater Kanto region. While the damage was minimal, it was the strongest to hit Japan's capital since the earthquake and aftershocks of the tremor that devastated the Tohoku region on March 11th, 2011. One of Nostradamus' prophecies for the coming days directly concerns Paris, according to some interpretations. The French capital would be under siege, suggesting a war in Europe. The section referring to this reads, quote, "All around the great city will be soldiers lodged by fields and cities." End quote. Chaotic scenes already came to the streets of the French capital amid riots over COVID restrictions, and there is no knowing what else may be around the corner. And of course, Paris was infamously attacked in 2015 by ISIS terrorists who killed 130 people. It was the deadliest attack on France since World War II. Nostradamus wrote, quote, "Of blood and hunger, greater calamity. 7 times a prieste to the marine beach, monarch of hunger, place taken, captivity." This has been interpreted to mean wars and armed conflicts in the world will probably only increase hunger. Therefore, it will increase migratory flows. And experts believe when Nostradamus refers to the beaches, he is predicting 7 times more migrants will arrive on the beaches of Europe than normal. Immigration continues to be a major political debate in the UK and Europe, with many deaths in the English Channel. And for some, Nostradamus' writing also predicted the fall of the European Union, which has been racked by trouble since the UK voted Brexit in 2016. It reads, quote, "Sacred temples prime Roman style will reject the Goths' foundations," end quote. Interpreters point to the Treaty of Rome, ratified in 1957, essentially founded the Union. According to Nostradamus, it is claimed Brexit was only the beginning, and the whole European Union was fated to collapse in the near future. It has already been suggested Poland could be the first country to follow the UK out of the bloc after a row between Warsaw and Brussels.
A simple search of the hundreds of websites and books dealing with his prophecies reveals one thing: that the words were so vague that almost anything can be claimed. If they were specific and clear, then all the websites and books would agree. The truth is they don't. They differ wildly, and they do so because everybody has a different axe to grind. There are some major events that are agreed upon though. The birth of Hitler, the rise of Napoleon, the French Revolution, the World Wars, and even the nuclear destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
The day of doom is coming.
Your blood will turn white. Your face will turn green. Your eyeballs will pop with pressure. Because our
Doomsday shows the living end.
The problem is, when the academics started to get involved in the 1980s, they discovered that none of the actual documentary evidence backed up any of these claims. They had, in fact, been taken from commentaries on Nostradamus by other people and not the actual words of the man himself. Even the prediction of the death of Henry II, an event widely claimed to have been predicted by Nostradamus, was in fact not true. It didn't appear in print until 55 years after the king's death. The academics discovered that the English translations were so bad that they were worthless. They did not take into account 16th century French and twisted the words to fit contemporary events. None of the English translations were based on the original source material. It was, in fact, a complete mess. The question now is this: if everything that has been claimed for Nostradamus so far has been hogwash, then could it be that everybody is looking in the wrong direction? that there are predictions about our relatively near future that he made that will come true.
An especially prominent prediction was that some sort of asteroid would hit the Earth. Quote, "Fire do I see that from the sky shall fall," end quote. The Earth did have a near miss with asteroid 2021 GW4, although it wasn't considered too much of a threat by NASA and didn't exactly fit the astrologer's dramatic prediction. However, NASA have been throwing spaceships into asteroids in order to predict how best to bounce them away from the Earth. Why would this be? Because it is predicted that there are rogue asteroids heading our way. Nostradamus also predicted the rise of artificial intelligence. He wrote, quote, "The moon in the full of night over the high mountain. The new sage with a lone brain sees it. By his disciples, invited to be immortal. Eyes to the south. Hands in bosoms, bodies in the fire." End quote. Obviously, the new sage with a lone brain is believed to be a reference to artificial intelligence, and we end ominously with bodies on fire. As modern artificial intelligence becomes more advanced each year, this warning about immortal disciples takes on a very real meaning. Indeed, Stephen Hawking has warned that artificial intelligence could end the human race. Machines that can think pose a threat to our very existence, and, quote, "The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race," end quote. In 2020, Elon Musk told the New York Times that AI would grow vastly smarter than humans and would overtake the human race by 2025, adding that things would get, quote, "unstable or weird." Ben Nye, the director of learning sciences at the University of Southern California Institute for Creative Technology, said, quote, "If the AI is explicitly designed to kill or destabilize nations, accidental or test releases of a weaponized viral AI could easily be one of the next significant Manhattan Project scenarios. We are already seeing smarter virus-based attacks by state-sponsored actors, which is most assuredly how this starts." Looking out into our galaxy, the French mystic cryptically refers to a, quote, "light on Mars falling." These words could be explained as the planet appearing to move backward in the sky, say believers. Or it suggests that humanity could be on the verge of a major breakthrough when it comes to colonizing the Red Planet. Elon Musk has made no secret of his desire to send humans to Mars and has suggested humans will land there by 2029. So maybe the billionaire has something more up his sleeve. Among the predictions made by Nostradamus for the coming year is a new pope to end all popes. According to the soothsayer, the current pope will be the last true pope, and the pontiff who takes his place will create a scandal. Quote, "In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will be Peter the Roman, who will feed his flock amid many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge the people." End quote. And what about the end of times? Nostradamus predicted a, quote, "celestial fire on the royal edifice." The prediction has been interpreted as suggesting that from the ashes of civilization, a new world order will emerge. Others believe this could refer to the, quote, "end of times," or the start of a new world order. Intriguingly, Nostradamus talks about the new alliance of two great powers coming together. In his writings, he says his new alignment will be between a strong man and a weak one, or even a male and a female leader. The alliance seems to work despite itself, but sadly, its good effects will not be long-lasting.
We have to understand, people do lie, often. Another one of those prophecies that is held up by believers as proven is the concept that Nostradamus predicted World War II and the arrival of the atomic bomb. Here's what he supposedly said. "Near the gates and within the cities, there will be two scourges, the like of which was never seen. Famine within plague, people put out by steel, crying to the great immortal God for relief." A lot of interpretations get this completely wrong. Firstly, they state that the French word portes is seaport. In fact, it means gate or doorway. So the location of a seaport is totally wrong. In fact, all this quatrain does is explain the terrors of the plague that we already know had spread across Europe. This is not a nuclear attack. The sentence, "people put out by steel," is mistranslated. It really meant some kind of medieval weaponry. It is almost beyond comprehension that such a quatrain could be twisted and turned to mean World War II and nuclear explosions. Nostradamus apparently also predicted the Great Fire of London. Here's what he said. "The blood of the just will commit a fault at London. Burnt through lightning of 23/6, the ancient lady will fall from her high place. Several of the same sect will be killed. The blood of the just will commit a fault. Well, the just are either the religious or royal leaders, and yet the fire was started by an ordinary person as far as is known, and it is speculated that it was in a bakery.
Nostradamus wrote letters, and there is one particular letter he wrote to his newborn son called Caesar. In this letter, he wrote about future events and the end of times. He predicted that the world would go through a series of great floods. These floods would end in a great catastrophe for mankind. A huge comet storm would hit planet Earth. After this, there is nothing. It's almost as if he's telling us there will be no future for mankind. Never in the history of mankind has there been a time when this could possibly come true. Now is the time. Humanity has caused such utter calamity and destruction on our beautiful planet that we have in fact instigated our own death. We have caused the earth to warm through our poisonous behavior, and this is melting the icebergs of the world. The seas are rising, coastal regions are disappearing at alarming rates, and the poisoned oceans of the world are heading our way. Never in the history of mankind could we safely predict a storm of comets, because never in the history of mankind has there been the technology for humanity to launch intercontinental ballistic missiles at each other. To a man from the 16th century, such things would appear to be comets, great streaming strands of fire and smoke falling down to earth before our eyes and bringing the end of mankind as we know it. This is exactly what Nostradamus wrote to his child. Quote, "But my son, I tell you that I have seen it thus. There will be floods of such nature that no place on this world will not be affected, and for a long time everything will be beneath the surface of water, and everything will be destroyed, with the exception of the weather and space. After those floods, such a great amount of fire of glowing stones will fall from the sky that nothing will be able to escape this last destructive firestorm." End quote. The problem is that the dating is difficult. It may be that he indicated this would happen 7,000 years after his writing of the letter. But this goes against his other prediction dates for the end of the world. Again, the vagueness causes problems. The events of flood and glowing stones falling from the sky are not vague, and we now know what these could mean. There are, though, more clues about the end times when we return to his prophecies about the third Antichrist. We turn back to his specifics about the army employed by this evildoer. The army of the enemy of peace will march towards Europe. They will emerge from the south of Russia, and through Turkey they will invade Europe. This army will also have a naval counterpart that Nostradamus called the Libyan fleet. It will move into the Mediterranean, and there will be a massive naval war in the Adriatic. Malta, Sicily, Sardinia, and other islands will be destroyed. Again, never in the history of mankind has there been such firepower with the ability to wipe out islands until now. Throughout this conflict, it is believed that Russia will be against the West, although Nostradamus is not clear. He does state that the Russians will be friendly with the West eventually, and that their leader will be the one who will set things right. The reason for this is because Russia soon realizes that they need to ally themselves with the West in order to defeat the Easterners. These Easterners are in reality the people of China and various former Soviet nations. In addition to this, the Easterners will be allied with the Islamic nations of Asia and the Middle East. So it appears the West and Russia will be at war with the East in a clear divide of ideologies and religions. Again, looking at world events today, it is not a stretch of the imagination to realize that China and the Muslim world could easily find themselves at war with the mainly Christian materialistic West. There are already so many issues that could spark international conflict. How could Nostradamus have known any of this in the 16th century? He couldn't. It seems that his third Antichrist will bring the non-Christian nations against the armies of Christ, and he also states that the Christians will be faced with terrible persecution and tortures. This terrifying war will last for almost 28 years, and both sides will suffer horrendous casualties. Our cities will be struck by these large shining rocks that fall from the sky. In other words, ballistic missiles will strike New York and other major centers. As if this isn't enough, there will follow a great and dreadful pestilence that will wipe out 2/3 of the world's population. This could be nuclear radiation or the spread of disease as society breaks down. There are various dates all of this could happen. The next is 2024, and roughly every 2 years following that. As Nostradamus tells us, It all depends on the actions we take now. What we do know is that the predicted flood we spoke about earlier comes after the war with the antichrists.
It is claimed that 23 sixes somehow works out to the date 1666, and yet any school kid will tell you 23 sixes is 138, which could mean almost anything, such as a psalm in the Bible. The ancient lady falling from her high place is simple enough. London was the ancient lady. It is some kind of prediction that the royal or religious leaders of London will bring it down, and some of their own kind brought down with it. Well, that had already happened several times, and in an age that was just witnessed the monarch Henry VIII, there is no wonder, as it would be a common idea. It is also said that Nostradamus predicted the 17th century ruler Oliver Cromwell. The man who would lead the armies of Parliament in a civil war against the royal houses of England and bring about a period of a republic. This is the quatrain the believers quote. Remember that England had suffered many monarchs who were brutal and would again. More of a butcher than a king in England, born of an obscure rank, will gain empire through force. Coward without faith, without law he will bleed the land. His time approaches, so close that I sigh. Firstly, Cromwell, for all his faults, was no coward. He was not without faith. In fact, he was extremely religious. He was not of obscure rank because he was born from landed gentry. So basically, the description of the man himself is miles off the mark. The next quatrain is claimed to have been a prophecy about the children of Henry II of France. The 7 children left in hostage, the third will come to slaughter his child. Because of his son 2 will be pierced by the point. Genoa, Florence, he will come to confuse them. This one couldn't be more wrong. Henry had 13 children, not 7, and only one of them died an unnatural death. So completely wrong there then. The problem with the prophecies of Nostradamus is that they are so vague and undated that they can be twisted to mean almost anything at any time. They are like scattering the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that never made a picture in the first place. You cannot put the pieces together. It is not a complex puzzle. It never was. Do not look for insights into the future of mankind here, for all you will find are the occult ramblings from a bygone age that made little sense even then. There is no code, cipher, algorithm, or hidden secret. Most of the interpretations that are out there are biased by the individual creating them. This can be for numerous reasons. Religious, conspiracy theorists, doomsayers, end-of-the-worlders, and even alien hunters.
Global warming will melt the ice, bring about widespread rainfall, and following this, more breakdown of society and spread of disease. In addition to all of this, it is thought that global warming and the melting of the ice caps could cause the planet to shift on its axis, causing tidal floods to worsen. Our position in the solar system would even alter and cause us to move even closer to the sun. In fact, the Earth is actually overdue for a polar shift, even without man-made global warming. There is absolutely no way a man from the 16th century could have known about any of this unless he had some way to see into the future. The future appears to be a terrifying prospect that must have caused Nostradamus to lose sleep. There is no wonder that he tried to tell us. But his message across the years is still very strong and true, that the future does not need to be this way, that we can make a difference, and we can stop these things from happening. The question is, will we listen? Nostradamus' prophecies continue until the year 3797. So if we make it through potential asteroid crashes, famines, the plague, and a zombie apocalypse, humanity might survive an extra 1,500 years or so. Still, between now and the end of times, Nostradamus predicted a lot of terrible things. Wars, the coming of 3 antichrists, and many plagues and pestilences. Many of these will leave the world in worse shape than it was before them, but not necessarily end it.
Nobody has ever said, Nostradamus will say this will happen tomorrow, and be proven correct. Nostradamus has been used, and not always by psychologically challenged individuals posting blogs on the internet. During World War II, the Nazis spread the propaganda that he had predicted the rise of Hitler. This is where that particular lie arose. The Allies retaliated by saying Nostradamus predicted the fall of Hitler. The world is full of lies. The real truth behind all of this is much more sinister. While stupid humans are running around wondering what the regurgitated ramblings of a 16th century occultist apothecary are really all about, their eyes are diverted from what is really happening in the world. As we sit and watch the bullshit we are fed, we don't question the reality. Nostradamus was a man of his time. The world of the occult gave answers to questions they were not equipped to answer. Questions that science today have answers for. Medicine, religion, the occult and science were all one in those days. Today we have divided them, because science and medicine have deducted religion and the occult from the equation, using hard, verifiable evidence. Religion and the occult have never been able to provide hard evidence for anything, as we can see with the so-called prophecies of Nostradamus. And yet, we still want to believe. And because we want to believe, the people in power and authority will allow us to, and will use that energy against us. Do not search the internet for the truth about Nostradamus, for what you will find are the unscientific ramblings of people with their own agendas. There are almost no unbiased references to his work. It is like abstract painting. It can be so obscure that the viewer can see almost anything he or she wishes to see. We no longer have the excuse of living in an age of uncertainty, because we know that the future cannot be seen, just as we can no longer revisit the past. If it were possible, then science would be able to prove it. A ball drops because of gravity. We can predict that with mathematical equations and then prove it in laboratory conditions. Under no circumstances do any of the Nostradamus predictions meet modern scientific standards. Neither do the claims of religions, psychics, mediums, and a whole host of other unverifiable ideas. They exist only in the mind until they can be proven in the real physical world. The problem is that evolution has given us a brain that wishes to connect the dots. To see a face in the cloud where there is none. And when we read an enigmatic quatrain from Nostradamus, we endeavour to make sense of it, to join the dots. And we all do this in our own era, with our own knowledge of the world, and make sense of the words from our own perspective. It is therefore time to stop believing in such things, and to stop being the pawns of the power brokers. To judge when best to join dots, and when not to. There is no face in this cloud. It is just a cloud.
And so what is the truth? Could one man living hundreds of years ago really foresee future history? In our 21st century age of science, why do so many people still believe? A few years ago, we may have scoffed, but today, science is actually permitting things that were once left in the realms of science fiction and fantasy. Multiple universes, quantum physics, all in one micro moment. These and more are put forward by physicists and quantum theorists. Time travel itself may now be actually possible, or so we're told. Could Nostradamus have found some unique method into perceiving vague images of a future world? There have been a great many methods utilized by our ancestors for entering what we call altered states of consciousness. Different ways of seeing and understanding reality itself. From hypnosis to drug-induced trance states, all have been tested and tried for thousands of years. Nostradamus was himself a man of science who delved into the world of the occult, the hidden. He understood the use of various drugs and altering his own perception. Was he in that perfect quantum state that allowed him to bend time and reality? We may never know, but the predictions he released into the world are quite remarkable and unique in their accuracy. Perhaps we have some truly dark days to prepare for as best we can. From artificial intelligence, asteroids, global warming and earthquakes, to pestilence, disease and famine. And perhaps those in powerful positions will seize the day and head these things off at the pass by researching and utilizing the great work of the Michael de Nostradamus, who will be forever known as Nostradamus. Time will tell.